Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today I thought we would do vocabulary lesson number 17, inshallah. The first three words are the following. First word is atrophy. Atrophy is to weaken from disuse. Frequently when people have strokes, unfortunately, they lose the ability to use a certain part of their body, their arms or hands or their legs. And if they can't use that part of the body because of the stroke they've had, then the muscles of that extremity actually weaken and they shrink. That's in the medical term. That's what atrophy is, to weaken from disuse. Synonyms are to degenerate, deteriorate, and antonyms, of course, would be to thrive and flourish. I have a picture of this, I think, here. Look at these two hands. The one on the left is actually normal, reasonably normal. But here on the right side, you see these muscles over here between these two fingers. They are shrunken, and you can see that because there's a big divot in there. And that's because they have atrophy. There's some problem there. Either there's a stroke or something that happened to them, and those muscles have shrunken. And this is not a normal phenomenon. And there's also a hint over here. This is nice and chubby, and this is like shrinking a little bit. So there's a problem with this hand in this individual, and that's atrophy, the weakening or from disuse. The second word is abate. Abate is to subside, to decrease in intensity. So one can say, for example, the storm abated. Right? It means the storm calmed down. Synonyms is to wane. The word wane, the word wax and wane are antonyms. Okay, and wane is to decrease in intensity. For example, and wax is to grow in intensity. We talk about, for example, the waxing moon and the waning moon. And I have examples of this as well. So if you have, for example, like this, okay, so this is a new moon, okay, and then this is, as the moon grows bigger and bigger and bigger as the month goes on, that's called waxing of the crescent, okay, growing big. And then there's a full moon, and then after the full moon, the moon gets smaller and smaller until, of course, it's going to disappear. That's called a waning moon. So the way I remember is like if you wax something, if you wax a car, it grows shinier, right? So waxing is growing shinier and shinier. So waning is the opposite, is growing less and less, and those are the key terms. Now you can remember beginning of the moon is like like this, okay. So you can, in the beginning of the moon is like this, because they're opposites. See, the beginning moon is like this, okay, that's the waxing moon, and the waning moon looks like this. So you can remember that by B looking like this, like that, and the descending moon is like this. So beginning moon is like this, descending moon is like this, okay. So that's important to know, waxing and waning moon. Okay, so that's from abate. So abate is to subside, to decrease in intensity. Synonyms is to wane, diminish. Antonyms: expand, amplify. The next word is porous. Porous is filled with many holes, right? Porous is filled with many holes. Synonyms: penetrable, pervious. Antonyms: impervious, impenetrable, right? Impervious, impenetrable, impregnable. So something that's porous is it has a bunch of holes, right? We kind of know that, I think. Okay. All right. So the next words are the following: wane, which we already talked about, waxing and waning. So to wane is to grow smaller. To wane is to grow smaller or less intense. Synonyms: abate, ebb. This word ebb is often used with flow, ebb and flow. Okay, ebb means is to decrease in size. Flow is to like flow like this. So people say, for example, the ebb and flow of life, meaning life, we grow older, we grow weaker, and then it keeps going, keeps moving forward. So that's like a trite to hackneyed term, if you understand what I mean. So the ebb and flow of life, but ebb means to decrease, to abate, to wane. Okay. Antonyms is to wax, intensify. The opposite of waning is waxing. The next term is lassitude. Lassitude is a feeling of weakness. Lassitude is the best thing. The way I appreciate it is like on a hot summer day. It's very hot. You go out for like 2 minutes and you come back. You feel like you're on a marathon or something. You feel like not doing anything. That's lassitude, a feeling of weakness. Synonym: listlessness. This is a beautiful word, and it's like I use this sometimes to actually describe patients. Patients feel like they don't want to do anything. They feel listless. Okay. Weariness. Listlessness is kind of like, you can remember it, mnemonic. It's like they have nothing on their list of things to do because they feel so weak. Listlessness. So they don't have anything to do in the list because they feel so weak. Listlessness. Weariness. Antonyms: vitality. Vitality is full of life. Okay, as in when physicians, doctors take vital signs. Okay, like temperature, heart rate, blood pressure. And they are checking for signs of life. Vitality. Vigor. Similar meaning. Undermine. Undermine is to weaken or diminish something. So if somebody undermines somebody else's plans, that means they undermine their plan, meaning that they weaken their plans. They diminish the chances of succeeding. Synonyms: undercut, attenuate. Attenuate, for example, Tylenol attenuates somebody's headache. It decreases the intensity or weakens the intensity of the headache. Attenuate. Antonyms: fortify, to strengthen. Next, obsequious. We have seen this word before, I believe. Obsequious is overly submissive, right? Servant-like, right? Obsequious. Synonyms: fawning, F-A-W-N-A-N-G, fawning. Compliant. Compliant does not have the negative connotation that obsequious does. Obsequious is like servant-like. It's not a desirable quality. Compliant is like obedient. Okay, so for example, somebody's compliant with the laws of the country means that they are obeying the laws of the country. That's a good thing. That I'm saying, assuming that the laws are good laws. So compliant is good. So, for example, and then we say a patient is compliant with the medications. I mean, the patient is taking their medications. On the other hand, if you say a patient is non-compliant with the medications, I mean the patient is not taking the medications. So that's compliant. So it does not necessarily have the negative connotation that obsequious does. This is a very important word, attrition. Okay, we did obsequious. Now, attrition is a wearing away of strength or morale. So eroding away the strength or morale, wearing away the strength or morale. This word is frequently used in context of conflict or war. So, for example, somebody might say war of attrition. So war of attrition means that both sides are growing weaker. So here's side 1 and here's side 2. Okay, so the war is kind of like breaking them apart. Both of them are kind of being destroyed. In the end, there's like nothing left of either one side like this. You follow? So war of attrition means nobody wins in the end. The both parties are at a loss in the end because it's wearing away their strength. Okay, that's a war of attrition. Synonyms are debilitation. Okay, debilitation. So debilitate, for example, somebody gets sick and they become debilitated. They become very weak. So what do? You rehabilitate them. Okay, they go in rehab, right? And it's like, okay, so rehabilitate means to bring them back to health. Okay, people go in rehab to become rehabilitated. The opposite of that, debilitation, means to weakening. Enervate. Enervate is also to weaken somebody's vitality, energy. People have strength and they have nerves that work, right? Nerves that work. If you take away the nerves, that's enervate. E is the negation of the nerves. So if somebody's enervated, they lack energy. Okay? Enervated. For example, somebody could say that an illness enervated him, which means it weakened their energy. Enervate. Synonyms are to debilitate. Okay? Obsequious, attrition, and enervate. Next, vulnerable. Vulnerable, prone to attack or harm. Vulnerable is susceptible. Example, susceptible as assailable. Assail is to assault, right? Okay. The castle was assailed, means the castle was assaulted. Susceptible, assailable are synonyms for vulnerable. Vulnerable is prone to attack. Okay. Okay. Ebb, we talked about this. Ebb is to decrease or decline slowly. The ebb and flow of life. It's a synonym for wane, right? Wane and decrease in size. Abate. Ebb. Compliant, submissive. Yielding, conciliatory. Conciliatory, right? You reconcile, you become friends again. So somebody reconciles means they become friends again. So concile means to become friends. Okay? So reconciliatory means wanting to be friends or making amends, right? Okay, like that. So compliant is submissive, like obeying the laws that we said. Yielding, conciliatory. Last word in this page, debilitate, to sap the energy off. Synonyms: cripple, enervate, remove the nerves, weaken, cripple, enervate, debilitate. Okay, those are the words. Shall go on with the sentences now. The first sentence is, excessive play begets mental atrophy. Were we created for play? The question is. So, excessive play begets. Now, the word begets means to get, okay? But it means like to have children, to give birth to, for example, is another meaning of it. So excessive play, too much play, gives birth to mental atrophy. In other words, a weakening of the our brain, our mental capacity, of our intellectual capacity. You play too much, and then your mind becomes a little bit slower, is what this is trying to say. And then the question is saying, it says, were we created for play? Now, the way I wrote this statement originally is that I wrote it like this: we were not created for play. Okay, that's how I had written this originally, but I revised it and I put it into a question form. That's a rhetorical device. Okay, sometimes it's better to not tell the reader what you think. Okay, here I would be telling the reader what I think. We were not created for play. Okay, but it's better for the reader to figure that out by themselves. Okay, and were we created for play? Then the reader is more engaged. They have to answer in their mind yes or no. Okay, somebody might say yes because that's what they think, but it does give the reader an option and a certain degree of respect to decide the matter on their own. And I think sometimes it's a better rhetorical device to not tell the reader, have the reader figure it out on their own. So I revised it like this. But anyway, I hope you agree that we weren't created for play. There's a place for play in life, but too much play is not consistent with our purpose, I think. Inshallah. Now, number 2. Friendships improve happiness and abates misery by the doubling of our joy and the dividing of our grief. Marcus Tullius Cicero woman. This is a beautiful statement, and I agree with this. Friendship improves happiness. I mean, friendship has twofold benefits. First, it makes everything that's happy happier when we share our joy. And it makes more misery more bearable. Friendship improves happiness and abates or decreases misery by doubling of our joy and dividing of our grief. It's a beautiful statement. Next, number 3. I'm aware that the officers of the Crown have had the opportunity of perusing the bill and that they will be making some recommendations. Arthur Williams. I don't know, this word perusing is not in the list, but I must have come across this statement somewhere, so I just put it in here. Perusing is to read carefully. So they're just saying, I'm aware that the officers of the Crown have had the opportunity of reading carefully the bill, the law, and that they will be making some recommendations. Okay. Number 4. Tea tempers the spirit and harmonizes the mind. Tea tempers the spirit. Tempers means calms down. Tea tempers the spirit and harmonizes the mind. It dispels or gets rid of. It dispels lassitude, weakness, laziness. It dispels lassitude and relieves fatigue, awakens thought and prevents drowsiness. Lu Yu, the Sage of Tea. So it's a book, actually, apparently famous. Tea tempers the spirit and harmonizes the mind, dispels lassitude and relieves fatigue, awakens thought and prevents drowsiness. True. Number 5. Professional baseball is on the wane, is on the decline, is what they're saying. I'll spot it. Professional baseball is on the wane. Salaries must come down, or the interest of the public must be increased in some way. So they're complaining about baseball and that the interest in baseball is decreasing, and they want to do something about it. Number 6. When people undermine your dreams, predict your doom, or criticize you, remember they're telling you their story and not yours. Cynthia O'Sally. This is a very beautiful and very important statement, and it has great truth in it, I think. When people undermine your dreams, okay, they weaken your dreams. They tell you, you can't, you're crazy. You have to be practical. Come on, When people undermine your dreams, okay, and they predict your doom or criticize you, when people tell you that you can't do something, you really have to be very careful when people do that. And people do that, unfortunately. With good intentions, okay, with good intentions. But nevertheless, they predict that you're going to fail. You have to remember, they're telling you their story and not yours, because they're looking at things from their point of view. They're looking at things from what they think they can do. They're looking at things from what they think that people are capable of doing, right? They don't know you. They don't know your aspirations so you have to be careful. People judge your potential based on how good their life is or how awful their life is, okay? So, but you can't be dismissive of people's opinion, because they might be actually right and you might be actually wrong. But anytime when people tell you cannot do something, and when you have something noble or something good that you have in mind, be very careful, because people in general speak from their own point of view, and they frequently assess you based on their abilities and not your abilities. Number 7. Those men are most likely in this case likely, those men are most apt to be obsequious, servant-like, and conciliating abroad, who are under the discipline of shrews at home. Shrews at home meaning like wives who are domineering, men. So they're saying that this is not the best statement to make about women, I think. But it's their opinion and they're entitled to it. Washington hearing, they're saying those men are most likely or apt to be obsequious, servant-like, and conciliatory abroad, mean outside their homes. So men are likely to be like servant-like outside the home, okay, who are under the discipline, okay, of shrews at home, who are like their servants at home. The men who are servants of their wives at home are servants of people when they leave the home. And that's what they're saying. Something to keep in mind, I guess. Number 8. This is a war of attrition. If you recall, attrition is to weaken. And a war of attrition, as I said, is a term that's used frequently to suggest that it's a war where both sides are getting weaker and weaker. And then in the end, really nobody wins because they're both weak. And this is a war of attrition. This is the final battle. I'm here and I will die in that ring before I give up what I have. Diego Corrales. I think they're a fighter, actually. I don't know who that is, but they're talking about a fight, I think. This is a war of attrition. Number 9. This is an interesting one. Advertising causes conflicts at exactly the most vulnerable age for children to be in conflict with parents. John Condry. This is a very important statement to make, and I request you to consider this carefully. Advertising causes conflicts. Okay, advertising causes conflict. You know, advertising, they target little children, like, or a little 3-year-old says, "Mommy, I want that." It's kind of like, I want that. It's like they watch stuff on TV. A 5-year-old says they want this, and you'll see these little kids wearing T-shirts of whatever popular cartoon movies running around because they've been bombarded with the advertisement of the products, and the kids want it because they see it. So advertising and industry actually targets little children. And it causes considerable amount of conflict between whom? The children and the parents. Yes, it does. Because not all parents can afford everything, right? So many kids, I've heard this from parents. They get stuff for their kids simply because if they don't get it, then every other good kid will have it and their kid will be made fun of or something like that. Very sad, but it's true. So advertising causes conflicts at exactly the most vulnerable age of children, and this person is saying that age, that it's a very vulnerable, very prone age for children. Is that a time really where the child should be in conflict with their parents, right? No, those are times that the parents want to nurture their child properly, right? So and then here's conflict right away. So advertising causes conflict at exactly the most vulnerable age for children to be in conflict with parents. It makes parenting more difficult when advertising is targeted at children, and it's very challenging. I read somewhere at one time that some 50% of the girls are self-conscious of their image by age 5 or so. In other words, they're exposed to so much advertising that the way that a woman should look, a girl should look, that they're self-conscious. They already thinking about how they're looking in public, and that's such a vulnerable age. It's very sad, and the best way to fight this, I think, is to be educated about this. Inshallah. Number 10. Wine and other luxuries have a tendency to enervate or deprive the energy, decrease the energy, sap the energy. Wine and other luxuries have a tendency to enervate the mind and make men less brave in battle. Julius Caesar. He would probably want to say coward, but he doesn't want to decrease the morale, wane the morale of his people, of his soldiers. Julius Caesar was, as you know, assassinated in 44 BCE by the Roman leaders who thought he was getting too powerful. He was a Roman general, okay, right? Of course. Wine and other luxuries have a tendency. So he's saying that luxuries, when people get comfy in life, okay, they become lazy, is what he's saying. Wine and other luxuries have a tendency to enervate the mind, weaken the mind, and make men less brave in battle, right? So when people have wealth, they don't want to risk that wealth, so they're less brave in battle. They rather be alive and enjoy their luxuries is what they want to do. That's what Julius Caesar is saying here. Number 11. Tyranny destroys or strengthens the individual. This is a very interesting statement. Emile Cioran. Okay, look at this. Tyranny destroys or strengthens the individual. I mean, I can see how tyranny can destroy a person, right? But how does tyranny strengthen the person, you wonder, right? Okay, so they're saying tyranny destroys or strengthens an individual. Okay? Freedom enervates him. Freedom enervates, means decreases the energy, right? Freedom enervates the person until he becomes no more than a puppet, right? If you give too much freedom, you enjoy so much, then it's like, all you want to do is have fun. It's like you get bored if you don't have nothing to do. Think about that for a second. They're saying that if you have too much freedom, you have too much luxury, just like Julius Caesar was saying above, if you have too much luxury, you become weak. You become a puppet. Now, you think about a puppet of who? Or whoever is providing you the entertainment and luxury. Think about that. How free are you really? How much is advertising and the entertainment industry here has brainwashed people? You wonder that? How much has it brainwashed you? How much freedom has it taken away from you? Because, what would you do if you didn't have all the entertainment and the luxuries that you have? So it's a form of tyranny is what they're saying. A tyranny destroys or strengthens the individual. Freedom enervates him until he becomes no more than a puppet of whoever providing them with all the freedom and luxuries. Okay. Man has more chances of saving himself by hell than by paradise. It's a remarkable statement. Man has more chances of saving himself by hell. Hell means hell on earth than by paradise. In other words, they're more likely to be apt to be good, take care of their soul if life is difficult, than if life is a bed of roses. As a believer, we don't ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make life harder for us. We don't. That's not our religion does not teach that, as I understand. We don't ask for trouble. If Allah gives us something good, we thank Allah, and Allah gives us more. We ask Allah to protect our iman. We don't ask for trouble. But as the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has taught us, a believer's state is remarkable. In difficulty, we are patient, and Allah rewards us for that. And when Allah gives us, we are thankful, and Allah rewards us for that. So in all circumstances, a believer is in a win-win situation, right? So when we're faced with difficulty, if you're patient, but the statement here is a person has better chances of saving himself and going into Jannah by having a tough life than by having a Jannah here on earth, right? We know the rich people will have a harder accounting on the Day of Judgment. So this is a very interesting statement, and I request you to ponder it when you have an opportunity. Number 12. Fear is the enemy of logic. Another beautiful statement by Frank Sinatra, of all people. Fear is the enemy of logic. It's very true. Human beings think that we are logical creatures. We are more emotional creatures than they are logical creatures, right? So fear is the enemy of logic. There is no more debilitating or weakening. There's no more debilitating, crushing, self-defeating, sickening thing in the world to an individual or to a nation. This is a very amazing, beautiful statement, and it's worth thinking about also. Fear is the enemy of logic. See, fear is an emotion that cannot coexist with logic almost. The two cannot coexist in the mind. A person can be fearful or they can be peaceful, but they can't be both at the same time, right? But fear influences people's logic because it's a more basic, fundamental fight or flight response. It elicits those animalistic aspects of human behavior, right? People don't make philosophical decisions when they're afraid. They make decisions to save their neck, is what they do. So you have to be careful. Fear. And fear is the enemy of logic. And there's no more debilitating, crushing, self-defeating, sickening thing in the world to an individual or to a nation. There's great truth in this statement. These are the last two statements, I believe. And though I ebb in worth, I'll flow in thanks. John Taylor. This is a beautiful statement. Ebb is to decrease, right? Decrease in so what they're saying, although I decrease in worth, I'm not worth as much as I used to be. Though I ebb in worth, I will flow in thanks. That's a very beautiful thing. I'm not worth as much as I used to be, but I am still thankful. Number 14. My heart resembles the ocean. It has storm and ebb and flow. Okay. My heart resembles the ocean. It has storm and ebb and flow. And many a beautiful pearl lies hid in its depths below. Heinrich Heine. It's a beautiful statement. Also, saying my heart resembles an ocean. It's deep and it has storms. I mean, it's not perfect. It has storms and ebb and flow. Decreases in storm and flowing, and waves coming up and down and keep flowing, and many a deep pearl. But once in a while, in darkness, deep inside, they're saying there's some pearls in there. It lies hid in its depths below. That's a very beautiful statement. I do think I have a bonus statement here from Epicurus. Do not spoil what you have by desiring what you have not. Remember that what you now have was once among the things you only hoped for. Do not spoil what you have by desiring what you have not. Remember what you now have was once among the things you only hoped for. Until next time, as-salatu was-salamu ala rasulillah walhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum.